When Stephen was first diagnosed, he had been sick for about 5 months and in and out of the hospital. At the time, I was about 7 months pregnant, and the phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was the doctor, and he said that the tumor was malignant. Steve was in the shower at the time, and I went over to the shower, and I knocked on the door, and I said, "Steve, the doctor called." He goes, "Do I have cancer?" And I said, "Yes." And he came out, and he just put his arms around me, and we both cried.
We went into the hospital, and Jason was, I thought, had a flu. And we were told later, within maybe 2 to 3 hours after they did blood work, that he had leukemia. I knew from doing some nursing that leukemia was cancer of the blood. So I knew right away that he did have cancer, and there were so many different emotions, knowing what leukemia meant and then knowing the consequences of the disease. I had so many things going through my mind. One of them, of course, was how severe was the leukemia.
I have an 8-year-old son, Derek Valancourt, who was diagnosed in October of '90 with medulloblastoma. And when that diagnosis came in, it was like the whole world just stopped. Nothing even seemed to matter anymore, just him.
My son was diagnosed with AML, which is the adult form of leukemia. He was 12 years old at the time that he was diagnosed.
When I was first diagnosed with cancer, I was kind of nervous and scared and wondering what was going to happen next. I think I was diagnosed in August 1st of '91 with AML leukemia. And they gave me an 8-month plan with chemotherapy, and it ended up getting dragged out to a year, and then just follow-up treatments and bone marrow samples and stuff like that.
She was diagnosed with astrocytoma of the brainstem on January 15th, 1992. So she's had her tumor for 2 years. When I found out about it, it was really the most difficult thing I ever had to deal with, because she's going to be kind of just being watched by CAT scans and MRIs. It's a very scary thing to go through. Laurie has to deal with a lot of things, like she can't go out and play with other kids. She has been set back in school. She's only on first grade reading level when she's in second grade. She seems to be doing pretty well right now.
I'm 10 years old, and I had liver cancer. I was treated chemotherapy.
And he has lymphoblastic lymphoma cancer. He's 9. He'll be 9 April 26th, right? Right? Seemed like the floor opened up on us and all that, you know.
We have a son, Adam, that was diagnosed with ALL 5.5 years ago. He has now been in remission for approximately 4 years and off complete treatment for 3 years.
My son was diagnosed with cancer almost 2 years ago. Back then, when he was diagnosed, the first feeling I think that I could say that I felt was they made a mistake. It wasn't my son that they were talking about. Shock, panic. It didn't sink in with me till a week after he was diagnosed. We didn't even cry till he was ready to come home because they kept us so busy at the hospital. But when we got home and we realized that we weren't leaving the illness at the hospital, we were going home with it, that's when I think we kind of broke down in our own family and realized, my God, this is changing the rest of our lives.
My son was diagnosed with Wilms tumor. When he was first diagnosed, we thought the worst. We thought my son was going to die. And I tried picturing life, how I could go on with the loss of my child, and I just couldn't imagine it. I was devastated. And as we went through it, it was difficult times. I wish that it was myself that was diagnosed instead of my son. I think I could have dealt with it better. But it was a tough battle. I found myself at work looking at pictures on other people's desks of their children perfectly healthy, and I felt very jealous. It almost brought tears to my eyes. I drove by a daycare, saw children playing, and it was like every time I looked at other people's healthy children, it would like almost bring tears to my eyes.
I was very, at the time I didn't understand cancer, and I was kind of devastated by just the word, but I knew it was dangerous, and I knew it didn't hit home. I didn't think anything like this could ever happen to me, but it did, and it was a very traumatic experience in that she had cancer, and I went through second opinions and third opinions to see that they were wrong, maybe in the first or second, and I wasn't satisfied with it. So I had her looked over several times to make sure with mammograms and whatnot. And when it was confirmed, it was a real devastating thing to hit home and hit you like that. You never think it's going to happen to you, but it does. And it's real devastating. It's hard on everybody. You try to keep it quiet. You don't want to hurt anybody. You don't want to let them know that they have this thing, and you want them to keep living. You don't want them to give up. You want them to keep going, and that's exactly what I did with her. When the doctor pulled me in the second biopsy, he said, took me in a room by myself, and he told me what the situation was, and that usually people with this type of cancer that she had, she wouldn't live a couple of years, maybe 2.5. If she was lucky, she maybe lived 7 years. And it was devastating. It was something that I just couldn't bear to hear at the time. And I just absorbed it and kept quiet. I didn't want to tell her. I didn't want to say anything to her because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. I didn't want her to give up on herself, to say, you know, she has this thing and this is going to kill her eventually. But time was of the essence, and I did the best I could to take care of her and do what I had to do. And what else can you say? Except that you never think it's going to happen to you, but it does.
When I was first diagnosed, a lot of thoughts go through your mind, you know. I mean, I immediately felt bad for my family because I knew it was going to be a long, hard road for them. Basically, I was at peace with whatever I was going to be told because at that point I was in pain. I was 18 years old and I was in pain. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I'd just gone through major surgery, and I really felt bad for my family because I knew if something was to happen to me, that they would be left to deal with everything because I would be somewhere better.
1 in 9 women will develop breast cancer. Someday, we may find a way to prevent the disease, and you can help. If you're at increased risk for breast cancer, phone 1-800-4-CANCER to find out more.
There may be something you're not seeing here, because the first sign of breast cancer isn't easy for you to spot. That's why a yearly mammogram is a must, especially if you're over 50. Doctors say the older you get, the higher the risk of breast cancer. but early detection increases your chance of successful treatment. While you may not be able to see something this small, a mammogram can. Call the American Cancer Society. Early detection is the best protection.
Stephen had cancer for, let's see, he was diagnosed in October, and he was diagnosed in September, and he died in October of the next year. I think of all things, our faith and our belief in God is what helped us cope with his illness. We prayed constantly, together, alone. We knew that if Stephen did die, that he would be going to a better place, and we both believed that in our hearts. We went about doing what we had to do. I was in graduate school at the time, or preparing to go into graduate school, and I left it and took over his business, not knowing a thing. But I was blessed, and the business began to grow. I took care of Steve when I was home. I took care of the baby. I was so busy doing what I had to do, I really did not have the time or the luxury to sit and think about what was really going on. I coped at the time not only through my love of God, but through staying busy and doing. Steve was wonderful. He was so brave and so courageous throughout the whole thing. Believe it or not, like 3 weeks before he died, he came up to the salon and tried to work. Whenever he could, he wanted to go out, he wanted to socialize. He never complained. He was really a witness for me and for his family. I am so proud of him.
I guess the only way that you can cope is take an hour at a time, not even a day at a time, because every hour something different develops. When you're in the hospital, you never know if your child's going to have a reaction to the medication. When you're at home, you're always wondering, is he going to get sick, and am I going to be able to take care of him at home? Coping now, it's a lot different. Again, it is a same thing, an hour every hour. I mean, we think about him all the time, and it's been 10 years for us. And I know a lot of other families who've lost their children 20 years ago, and they're still having a problem dealing with it. You cope the best you can.
How we coped with it at first was I delved into every informational book I could find on cancer and treatments and diagnosis. Every time an article in the newspaper came up, I asked the nurse practitioner if this was an option for Derek. You never give up hope, ever. You always have to have that glimmer left someplace. And you just have to relish every moment you have.
I cope with it fine. It really doesn't bother me at all. It was kind of a good experience because you value life more after you have it and don't take as many things for granted.
And when the doctor told my husband and myself that he had AML, he explained the differences between ALL, which was a children's leukemia, and the AML, which was an adult, and you usually don't get it unless you're over 25. He said the cure rate for AML was 60%. I, at that time, just wanted to hit the doctor. I just wanted to tell him to shut up, that if he didn't say it, it wouldn't be so. But I held that in, and he asked us, did we want to tell Woody and the rest of the family, or did we want them to? And we chose to have them to do it with us present. And I remember when Dr. Michelson went into Woody, along with Sue Hamway, and they told him, he asked right away, am I going to live? And Dr. Michelson said right from the beginning, always be truthful, because they have to trust you. And it was very important. And he told Woody that they had a 60% cure rate. And I could see that Woody was devastated, and he looked down and he was very quiet. And then a few minutes later he looked up and he said, well, I'm going to be in that 60%. And from there it was a long battle. We spent the first month of August in the hospital, totally in the hospital. I stayed there the whole time. I took time off from work. And I had very good support from my manager and people I worked with. And then I went back to work, and I would stay in the hospital at night. My husband would be there in the day while I was at work. And Woody he had 2 bouts of pneumocystis pneumonia, at which time we thought we were going to lose him. And one particular time, just to show you Woody's courage and strength and being positive all the time, I was sitting on the bed reading to him, and he had pneumocystis pneumonia, and I was reading to him Joshua. He liked that story. And he asked me, he said, Mom, I'm going to be sick. And I said, okay, Mommy, I'll get, and before I could even do anything, blood just started coming out. He just started vomiting blood. And I ran, and the nurses and doctors were there immediately. And he looked at me, because I guess my face is a little bit expressive, and I was trying to be calm. And he looked at me and he said, Mom, don't worry, I'll be all right. And even then, when he was going through all that, he was more concerned about us.
Like, when I didn't even know I had it. And then when the doctor said, they just said we have to study more. And they never told anything to us. Like, they didn't know what I had. And they never said a word. So my aunt was in the hospital, and she just felt bad, because my aunt works in the hospital as a not a doctor, but she works in the computers and sends blood to other floors, and she tried to do something about it, but she wouldn't. So, but then my mom was mad, and then she was sad, and so.
Well, we go to the YME support group, which offers a lot of support and help. Best suggestion is to find a support group, because there is a lot of stress that you have to deal with, and a lot of things that you don't understand, and that's the place to go to get your question.
People say, now that your son's off treatment, if things come back to normal, well, there's no such thing as normal in your life afterwards. That you breathe it every day. You look at your child being healthy one day and wonder, is this it? Is he going to stay healthy? My son, I think, was fortunate enough to be diagnosed with one of the cancers, childhood cancers, that they can more easily cure. He has like a 90% chance of surviving this. And the longer he stays healthy after treatment, the longer, we feel more secure in the fact that he's going to be cured. This October, it'll be 2 years that he'll be off treatment. And I think at that point, we're going to finally breathe that sigh of relief.
My son was, he lost his hair, he lost his strength. He wasn't running around and playing like a little child, and that tore me apart. I figured these are years of your life where you'd like to, have a healthy child. It took me, we lose that. It's something that never can be replaced. A child's youth.
Mentally, we coped with it because I kept it away from her. I didn't want her to know that she was this was a terminal thing. And we kept it, I kept it sort of away from her and the children too. Maybe it was wrong to do that with the children. I think the children should have known right up front, right from the day one. But I didn't want her to get wind of it, because she was the type that would probably gloat with it and take it pretty tough, pretty hard. And so I kept it away from her and tried to tell her things like, she said, when she said, I think I'm gonna die, and I said, no, you're not gonna die, and stuff like that. And she said, I feel like I'm gonna die. This has got a hold of me. I said, no, don't worry about it. I said, I can go out and get hit by a truck or something like that, or I could have a heart attack. I could, any one of us could die, but stop worrying about death. Death comes to everybody, but don't worry about it. Live day by day. Live for every day you have. And I did what I could for her. So I took care of her. And she went through a tough cancer experience.
Since I've been diagnosed, I've been coping very well with, I believe, with it. I don't let the cancer stop me from living my life. I'm still young, I mean, the physical things like the hair loss and the loss of weight and everything, I mean, those things affect your life because you don't look the same, but you're still the same person inside, so it doesn't matter, and everybody treats me the same exact way. So I just go on, I keep working, and I don't let it stop me at all. And I think the hardest thing for me is that I wasn't able to, I was in college when I first was diagnosed, my freshman year of college, and I was, you get into this lifestyle, you're used to a certain lifestyle, and my lifestyle has completely changed now. I'm not able to go to school and do the things that I wanted to do with my life, and it is hard not to be able to, sometimes you see everybody else's life going on, and yours is kind of at a standstill, even though time is still moving, I mean, I can't make up for this lost time, but I'm not doing what I want to be doing. But it doesn't stop me from living, I still enjoy every day, and I just live each and every day just for the day. I live for the day. I mean, I get angry, like I said, because I'm not going where I originally intended to be going in life, but the path that I'm going down is fascinating too, because the people I'm meeting and the things I'm learning more about life as opposed to learning about business, which I was in school for, And sometimes learning about life is more important than learning about business. I mean, it's going to make me a little bit more ahead of the rest, I appreciate life. I know what it means, it's hard. I mean, I do have frustrations like people walking up a flight of stairs. Most people, to them, subconsciously, they don't even think about stairs. Me, I look at stairs and it's an awesome obstacle that I have to use all of my energy just to exert to go up them. I just want to be carried up them. They scare me, And most people don't even think about it. Especially being 21 years old, that's hard because in my mind, I want to be able to do those stairs. So I push myself, because I'm like, everyone expects me to do it too, because I don't want to be carried up. At the same time, I don't want people to carry me because I don't want to look weak in front of other people. I want to stay strong, because then I'll feel as though I'm giving in to my disease, and I'm not. I don't want to at all. This disease may be with me, but it's coming along for the ride. I'm still living my life, and if this disease wants to be here, it's just coming for the ride because I'm not going to stop my life for this disease.
There may be something you're not seeing here, because the first sign of breast cancer isn't easy for you to spot. That's why a yearly mammogram is a must, especially if you're over 50. Doctors say the older you get, the higher the risk of breast cancer. But early detection increases your chance of successful treatment. While you may not be able to see something this small, a mammogram can. Call the American Cancer Society. Early detection is the best protection.
Happy birthday!
1 in 9 women will develop breast cancer. Someday, we may be able to prevent the disease, and you can help. Join the thousands of women who are part of a study researching ways to prevent breast cancer. If you're at increased risk for the disease, phone 1-800-4-CANCER to find out more. Do it for yourself or your daughter. Do it for someone you love.
I'm Nancy Wilson. An important study, the breast cancer prevention trial, is underway to get some answers about a medication that may prevent breast cancer. But we won't get an answer about how the medication affects us unless more of us participate in the study. If you're 60 or over, or younger and breast cancer runs in your family, call 1-800-FOR-CANCER to find out more information about the breast cancer prevention trial.
I think the biggest effect that Steve's illness had on me was a deepening of my faith. If someone would have told me 3 years ago that I was going to be going through this and running a business and taking care of a baby and everything else, I would have said I could never do it. But it just amazes me that with prayer and belief and faith, how God delivers you, how he takes you through something. Some of us were sad, some of us were angry, some of us were sad and angry, up and down emotionally. Still to this day, we're going through the motions to try to cope with what happened. It's easier to blame others for Stephen's death than it is to accept it and feel the pain from it. But we're all getting through it, and we're taking it a day at a time. And again, I pray a lot.
The effect that cancer brought to our family with our son's diagnosis was one of the things happened. We had ended up having to stay in the hospital for about 2 months. It broke up our family where my children had to stay with babysitters, and we never had babysitters before. So now they're left with babysitters, family members usually, but still away from us.
Like my mother came up to the hospital a lot, and my father came up to the hospital a lot, so my brother was kind of left just alone by himself a lot of times. He kind of was left out a lot, and it just caused a lot of stress on the family.
Sometimes there's a lot of stress, sometimes there's a lot of tension, a lot of confusion, a lot of anger built up because you don't understand why it's happening to you and why it's happening to your daughter. There's just so much confusion going on all the time that only place to go is to a support group to get the answers.
For us, it's made us a lot more thankful for everything that you have day to day instead of long outlooks. Now when people complain about a cold or a flu or something like that, you say that's nothing compared to life and death situation like we were faced with 5 years ago.
I think it's affected us more as parents than it's affected our son. Our son took it more in stride than we did. His biggest worry at the time was what time he was going to get to the playroom to play. He had a tube in his chest for his injection, so to him it wasn't that painful. He actually looked forward to the visits. He lost his hair a bit, but it didn't bother him as much as it bothered us. But the effects, long-term effects with him, I think he's a more compassionate child now. He sees other children that just don't look as healthy, and he's more sympathetic with them.
Well, now that I've sort of settled in my ways, I made up my mind I wasn't gonna just lie there and die myself. I felt like I did at first, but thank God I just picked myself up and got out of the house, and I met a friend that we had that I've known for years, and now we are very, very friendly, it fills my life with more hope, the hope that I had before, and I feel comfortable with that, and I feel as if I have that someone like a replacement, but it's not a replacement. You get your wife is your wife, married for 43 years, and but you find somebody that can fulfill your life and make things a lot easier for you and for the other person who also has lost their spouse, and go on with life. In my case, I had 6 children, and not everybody copes with it the same way. Not everybody can deal with this thing in the same manner. I have children that live with me. I have children that live in the same building. They're married, and not everybody copes with a death the same way. And I found that everybody thinks that you should mourn longer. You should pay that respect to your wife that you owe her because of all the years that you spent together. But as I told them, life goes on, and you continue to live and breathe, and you got to carry on your life without hurting anybody. You don't want to hurt anyone because life just goes on, and no one copes with it the same way. I think children tend to cope with it differently than a parent, than a spouse, or a mother, I think, or a father.
It's very hard for my family. I do. It has its tolls because they see me going through the chemotherapy. I've been going through chemotherapy for 3 years now. And I mean, it isn't an easy thing to go through, especially for them because they wanna, especially your parents. Your parents, right away, my parents wanted to make things better for me because they have all my life as parents. And this is the one thing they don't have any control of, and it bothers them that they just can't take control of the situation and make me better.
I'm Sunshine, and I'm here because I care about the kids that have cancer, and because it's one way I feel like I can help make a difference in somebody's life, to bring a little bit of laughter and a little bit of joy. And I started to clown as a result of being up at a place called Camp Sunshine up in Point Sebago, Maine, and it's a camp for kids that have a life-threatening disease. And each week that I've gone up to volunteer, the kids have happened to have cancer. And up there I met a couple clowns, and again, it was such a rich, rewarding experience that I had that I wanted to take it a little bit further, and this is the way I can do it. And the alley I belong to takes and sponsors the one organization, Why Me? And it's awesome. It's the best thing I can do.
Hello, my name is Fruit, the clown. I clown with a lot of children that have cancer. My suggestion to you is when you're with children that have cancer, is let them be themselves. Don't treat them any different than you would anybody else. Those things are important to them, to be treated like everyone else. I've worked with terminally ill children for about 3 years. They're most dear to my heart. I'll share a story with you. I have a friend, and his name is Derek. He's 9 years old. He died last May. Derek and I were really good friends. I used to do his birthday parties and visit him in the hospital. As a matter of fact, one day I went and brought him some balloons. And I didn't have my clown suit on, so I went in with the balloons first. And then he saw my face and he said, "Fruit, that's you." I said, "Now remember, Derek, you're the only one that has never seen me without my clown clothes on." So from then on, he used to tease me and say, "I saw Fruit without her clothes," and then tell everybody that. Anyways, it was a good joke between him and I. Well, I have a group of clowns, and we opened for Barnum and Bailey Circus. So all the children from Why Me were there, and they were in a certain section. So I went to that section after we performed to go right up to the kids. And I went and I saw all the kids, and I looked and looked for Derek, and he wasn't there. So about 3 days later, I got a phone call. He was in the hospital, and he was in a coma. And they said, "Would you come up?" I said, "Of course." And I went up, and I went into the room, and everybody was very quiet. They weren't talking. They were all very still. So I decided just to talk to Derek, and I went in and said, Derek, where were you? I looked for you at the circus, and I know you saw us perform, but where were you? I said, I heard you left, you had a headache. And I just kept on talking and talking, and then all of a sudden, everyone in the room started talking. So the last day that Derek was here, everybody got to say all those things that they really needed to say, like Derek could hear him, and I really believe he could hear them anyways. And I was there till about 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I went home. And at 4:30, I got a phone call, would I come back to the hospital? So I went back to the hospital, and Derek died about 10:30 in the morning, and I left with a friend, and we went and had coffee, and I felt so good to know that I made that difference for that last day of Derek's life, that his family and relatives said all the things that they really needed to say to Derek before he left. And it was an experience that I will never forget, that I will always cherish and hold dear to my heart.
Risk factors. Incidence increases with age. Over 80% of all prostate cancers are diagnosed in men over age 65. The disease is more common in northwestern Europe and North America. It is rare in the Near East, Africa, Central America, and South America. For reasons not currently known, Black Americans have the highest incidence rate in the world. There is some familial association, but it is unclear whether it is due to genetic or environmental factors. International studies suggest that dietary fat may be a factor. Early detection. Every man 40 and over should have a digital rectal examination as part of his regular annual physical checkup. In addition, the American Cancer Society recommends men 50 and over have annual prostate-specific antigen blood testing. If either result is suspicious, further evaluation in the form of a transrectal ultrasound should be performed. Survival. 58% of all prostate cancers are discovered while still localized. The 5-year relative survival rate for patients whose tumors are diagnosed at this stage is 91%. Survival rates for all stages combined have steadily improved, and in the past 30 years have increased from 50% to 76%. To know more about cancer, call the American Cancer Society or call your local hospital.
Mama thought that you would never leave, but now you're gone. I wrote this song with all my heart, a prayer to you from me. Thank God for the time we had together, but it's hard living here without you. So until we meet again in heaven, memories of you will carry on. Passing angel, passing angel, you have given me so much in life, and now you're gone. It seems God takes the best so soon. You left this world, but you'll never leave my heart.
the prostate gland. That's something I think has something